Okay, let's get the list up. Oh, you got it. Part-time lover could be fun, but it's a bit out of the way.
It's Friday afternoon, and Elisa is planning a night out in the city.
See that?
How can you say that that's wheelchair accessible?
But it can be a long process.
So when planning a night out, you have to plan a lot. If it's like a day trip, could be 2-3 hours, ringing up places, making sure everything's suitable.
Elisa has muscular dystrophy. It's a degenerative condition, and she uses a wheelchair.
For my 21st birthday, I was trying to plan a fun night out. I wanted to do karaoke. And at that time, there were no karaoke bars accessible in Adelaide. So I spent maybe 2-3 weeks researching that to end up with nothing. It made me feel quite disappointed, as it's really not that complicated. Going out, I'm definitely more of a night owl. So I'll go try new restaurants, bars, quiz nights, just anything really.
Elisa has lived in Adelaide her whole life, but hasn't experienced much of its nightlife. Of the 72 bars and nightclubs within the Adelaide CBD that are listed on Google, 60% of them aren't wheelchair accessible, or don't have that information freely available. Elisa says of the 40% that say they are, when you actually go there, it's a different story.
Sometimes when you Google, it's not correct. It says they're accessible, you get there and it's just this little corner away from all the action. Just a table on its own, out of the way. All our patrons are in a separate area where all the vibey action is. It makes me feel a bit isolated, unable to really get involved with it.
You're 20, you're in your 20s, you want to be able to go out. It's like such an amazing time of your life. You know, I'm in my 20s at the moment and, you know, I want nothing more to be able to just go out to a bar, to a restaurant with my mates and not have to think about access. You shouldn't have to think about that as a young person. When you're just trying to have a good time, have a few drinks, have a little boogie, you know, you don't want to have to think about whether you're going to be able to use the bathroom or have to go home.
Lily Durkin works on the Disability Inclusion Training Project at the Julia Farr Association Purple Orange. She's also a disabled woman and says access goes beyond just entry to the front door.
So for people, the autistic community or people with sensory needs, is it the lights dimmable, or is the music able to be changed or brought down slightly or up slightly for various sensory needs? Do you have the options of a hand dryer but also have the options of hand towels? I also need to think about whether the bar itself, you know, to be able to pay, whether I'm going to have quite a anxiety-inducing time, because I am short-statured and a lot of the time people don't see that I'm there, and that can mean upwards of, you know, half an hour I've waited at one point to be able to just get a drink.
In 2019, South Australia introduced a 4-year state disability inclusion plan. Part of the plan was to implement universal design across South Australia, meaning that built environments and public spaces are accessible to everyone.
In the last few years, I don't think I've noticed any changes, in all honesty. It is definitely frustrating having to keep it in people's minds, and some people put it in the too hard basket. How are we going to accommodate this?
Nat Cook is the South Australian Minister for Human Services, and she says making these changes to existing buildings can be tough.
While ideally all buildings would be accessible and usable and safe for all people with disability, we do acknowledge that there are challenges with the legacy buildings that we have, but let's do better in the future. We're coming to an agreement on that, and we're saying, right, here's the line in the sand. We have to do better for the future.
I think it's important that we're still thinking about what kind of changes can be made to already built infrastructure, because at the end of the day, you know, we all still want to be able to go out now, right now, not in the future.
Okay.
For some venues, making major changes can also be extremely expensive and can mean closing down for extended periods of time to improve their accessibility. For instance, adding a commercial elevator to an underground or rooftop venue can cost in excess of 6 figures.
That is completely understandable, and that's where we would really love to see the government come in and maybe bring some grants out or have that support for businesses to be able to build a ramp or some subsidies for inclusion training.
Lily says this problem is Australia-wide, but there are simple changes that venue owners can make too, like updating their social media or websites to better reflect their accessibility.
20% of the population live with a disability. So that's 20% of the population that you could have as your patrons by just being, you know, having your accessibility on your website or even on your socials. The disability community is so tight-knit, and if we find a venue that is truly inclusive and accessible, we will tell everybody, and there will be lines out your door to get into your venue because you have committed to that effective and active allyship for the disability community.
In 2022, as part of its disability inclusion plan, the SA government launched an app called Pavely, which rates venues on its accessibility and can be a way to discover new places to visit.
Oh, I get bored absolutely of the same places, but as much as they're nice, you don't want to be getting the same food all the time. You want to try new things.
So what I would really love to see is, you know, effective allyship through everybody going and downloading that app, and when they're out and about at a bar or at a club, if they see that the venue's not too accessible, they can note that on the app. Or if it's a really, really great accessible venue, please pop that on the app and let everybody know so that they can go there.
Lily and Elisa say small actions like this and conversations about accessibility help take away some of the stress and frustration of planning a night out.
It's taking away that burden away from that young person and making it more of a collective societal thing that you can tackle together by creating that more inclusive bar, restaurant, club, whatever it may be. And the world, you know, Australia, Adelaide, will be a much better place because of it.